Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to another episode of Cryptic Crypto, the channel that gives you daily updates on the crypto market. Please like and subscribe. Remember, these opinions are my own, and always do your own research. So let's kick straight off into it. My God, there's been some people on YouTube are going major pullback. The market's ruins. Crypto's going to zero, and I've seen it. And the reason why I've started this is the hour. Let's zoom out. This is the week. It doesn't look that bad. Sui's up, tails up, Eve's up, CRV. Okay, some of these are down. Let's look at the week. That looks pretty good. Let's look at the month. That looks pretty good. Let's look at the year. Incredible. Other than Ethereum. My God. But Ethereum is going to have its day. And to be honest with you, that's why I wanted to start with you guys. Because a lot, like, I know I mentioned yesterday, a lot of people are on their phones all the time, checking all the time, and it's hard to resist, right? When there's a bit of euphoria, and then as soon as there's a bit of a dip, I think Bitcoin's at 116k. All of a sudden, everyone comes out of the woodwork. YouTube videos are major pullback. What is this correction? Where are we going? It's all doom and gloom. Whereas actually, when you break it down and you look at the news, my long term or mid term at the moment is incredibly bullish. Let's look at Bitcoin dominance. What do we want it to be doing? Break down. What has it consistently done? Broken down. Like I said, this was support. We broke it. We wicked back up. We've broken it again, and now we're beginning to push down to the bottom side where we're looking at 61%. Bitcoin dominance breaking down generally means that liquidity is coming to your altcoins, and normally Ethereum is the one to lead the way. Now, Ethereum Bitcoin pairing is incredibly important to be looking at. So anyone that's watched my Bitcoin pairing videos, you'll know, like we want Ethereum to be worth a higher percentage of Bitcoin as well as if Bitcoin's price remains the same for Ethereum's price to go up. And generally speaking, it's a good outlier to say, like, look, Ethereum is currently outperforming Bitcoin. We've been trading in this for so long. This was support, this is resistance, this is a sloping line of resistance that we broke to the upside, trended up, hit this resistance line, we've broken through. Okay, we want to print on the outside of this and maybe turn us into support to then push up, because we've seen it with XRP and we've seen it with a number of others. We are beginning to push up, and that's exactly what you want for a utility alt season. Look at the Ethereum price. Look, anyone who's been watching my videos for the last few weeks, we've had a sloping line of resistance, which we've tried breaking once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, wicked above, came back down, 5 times now. If we print above this, incredibly bullish. Ethereum is above $3,000. Hasn't been there, since March. Now, when we look at that, where is that in terms of our fib targets? That's literally bang on our 0.618, which is at $3,062.50. Sorry, not pounds. Sorry. And look at that. That is bullish. Now let's look at Sui. Where is Sui at? Again, we have. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cough. We've broken above this trend line. We've pushed to the upside. We've hit our 0.618 fib line. We're now beginning to look. Our next target is $4.20. Our trades are up. Our spot bank's up. Everything is up because we were buying on the way down, and we will take profits on the way up. Now, I'm not taking profits right now because I want to see where the market goes. But if we do see a dip to the downside, I might add to my trades, or I might take some profits from that perspective. And one of the things, so like someone commented the other day, look at H bar. Now, as I said, H bar. Sorry about the cough. H bar is only a small proportion of my bag, so I didn't want to do loads. To be honest with you, I've already looked at this before, quite clear. Sloping line of resistance, broke above it. Our next target is around 30 cents. Where could this go from a midterm target? $4.23. I'm sure that makes quite a lot of people happy when they look at that kind of fib line. What's a realistic target? Probably $1. $1.50. Could go above that. The fib certainly supports that cases. We'd obviously need a lot of bullish momentum. And typically, as I mentioned yesterday, alt seasons don't last that long, especially utility seasons. You know, we spend all this time going, when pump, when Lambo, when's it going to start outperforming Bitcoin? And then, you know, we complain when it begins to. And, you know, it's only going to go up. It's only going to go up. You know, Ethereum's going to go, you know, 20, 30, $40,000. Don't sell, don't sell, diamond hands, all of that. Where realistically, when the entire market's telling you that, that's probably time to take some profits. And again, if we go back to the ETH, like this is obviously a longer term chart. We've been trading within this channel for a long time. We broke to the downside. This is a support line. We came back up again, similar to my chart. You know, we had resistance at the top, which we tried breaking multiple times. We've now just pushed above it. Will be again, the sloping line of resistance is resistance, and we want to be pushing to the upside. That is what's going to drive your bags and make you money. So when you see people obviously talking about how, you know, the market's turned, you know, look at CRV in the last hour, 2.6%. Zoom out. Think about your trades. Are you confident in them? Have you done your own research? Do you believe in that coin? Is the market, is the Bitcoin pairing? How is your coin performing against that? And where do you think it's going to go? Because that is how you will make money in your trades. And ultimately, I'm sure everyone here, like if, you know, XRP went to $1,000, which I don't think is realistic, $1,000, everyone's going to sell, right? As soon as it gets maybe $100, everyone's going to sell. And if everyone's selling, what would the price of XRP be? You know, like you have to have realistic targets, because, you know, my XRP target of, you know, $8 to $12, those are the targets where I'll be, you know, dollar cost averaging out the market from my spot bag. Cool. I might have, you know, keep a little moon bag for myself, and I might even, you know, look at it from a futures trade with low leverage to try and catch a bit of the upside. But, you know, do I necessarily believe that's it's going to get to 1,000 or even $20? I don't know. And nobody knows where the top's going to be within this cycle. As you can see, more recently, you know, we topped out at $3 free, hit quite a clear kind of line of resistance here, came back down. Hopefully we don't come all the way down to $2.36, but, you know, could come back down to do $2.65. Just looking at, you know, if we did some really basic TA without me getting my chart up, without me looking at volume or RSI or any of that, and we said, you know, roughly there is support, and here is resistance, and we go, cool. Well, we could be trading, we could consolidate within here, we could wick below and come back up before we push to the upside again. We don't know. You know, the more recent high, which was back in January, was what, around $3.40. We're not that far away from it, guys. And you have to remember that our targets are much higher than that. My targets are $8 to $12, and that's where I'm looking to kind of get to from that perspective. When we look at like some of the people in the market, most people calling it for a year and we're wrong. I agree. You know, how many times have you guys seen alt season? We're not there yet, but I think now finally maybe for a short window opportunity alt season. And why is he probably saying that? He's saying Ethereum, which generally, as I mentioned yesterday, is the queen, the one that leads the army of all your altcoins to push to the upside, especially the large caps first, is currently outperforming Bitcoin. It is moving to the upside whilst Bitcoin is moving down slightly. And that's not a big deal. Also, when you look at World Liberty Fi, right? About 95% of their holding is Ethereum. Then BNB, Mantle, Avalanche, Base, Polygon, Optimism. Don't even know what that one is. Not going to look at it. Well, it says 0% to be fair, so tiny amounts in that. But 95% of what World Liberty Fi owns is Ethereum. Donald Trump would not allow the business that he is very closely tied to have 95% in an asset that he believes or the business believes will depreciate. And if that isn't a leader, and if you don't think that these charts right now are bullish, I don't know what to do for you, because we can come back down and push back up and all those things, but it looks like we're breaking a sloping line of resistance on on price action here. We're above 3,082. Looks like we're breaking the 0.618 fib line. Looks like Ethereum is going to test, not Ethereum, sorry. It looks like Ethereum is, trending up and potentially breaking, resistance that we've been in, since May, from that perspective, from the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing. Now, where does that leave us in terms of, alt season? We're not there yet, guys. Cool. We have not been at 37, or, there or thereabouts, well, literally since February. So February the 22nd was the last time where we were bang on 37. Since then, we have been purely Bitcoin season. Everyone's been going like, oh, alt seasons never happen. It's, the whole market's dead. You should only buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the one. And Bitcoin is probably the one long term. If you're, if you're going to hold your altcoins forever, buy Bitcoin. But if you're looking at exiting the market and making profitables where you can outperform Bitcoin and outperform the rest of the market, then you need to wait until we're in alt season. And we are pushing now quite quickly to the upside. And again, alt seasons don't last long. Look at, back in November, December, look, we pushed up. We're in alt season. Yay, December. Sweet, we're in alt season. Look, all our gains are in this period here, probably of about 4 to 6 weeks. That is nothing, right? And you have to be prepared to be selling on the way up, because perfectly timing the top is a ridiculous, it's a fool's errand. It's so difficult. When I see people on Twitter talk about, I perfectly timed the top and I perfectly timed the bottom and I'm the world's greatest trader, they wouldn't have. There's no, I've not seen it, and I'm sure there's maybe a few outliers, but you don't need to. You just need to be dollar cost averaging on the way down, dollar cost averaging on the way up, like in terms of, selling or DCAing out and, making your profits. We're in crypto, or I am in crypto, to make a profit. And what are we beginning to see? A bit of an increase in the market in terms of people actually searching for crypto. I'm sure if we put XRP, yeah, look, massive upside. If we put Bitcoin, again, upside. We are seeing crypto beginning to be talked about more and more. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing more people asking me questions and going like, oh, what would you buy? How would you buy it? And, they will be coming in. Hopefully you guys have, got some of your bags already, but they'll be coming in probably up here. But they're like, oh, God, I must buy. And that's wrong. As soon as that greed index goes that high and everyone's buying and the euphoria is everywhere and everyone's like, it can only go up, it's never going to trade down, that is where, we see these kind of actions to the downside. We saw it when we had our last alt season. Look, we're like, up, bang. Do you know what I mean? That's literally, if you compare to alt season, we're up all the way up to all-time highs, $5.53 on SUI, and we came crashing, tumbling down. And people, I'm sure, were like, going like, I'm going to long here, I'm going to long here, I'm going to long here. It's only going to go up. No. Whereas, some of us that were doing some really basic TA, and I'm like, again, I'm not showing all the TA. I try and keep it as clean as possible for you to see. We're looking at patterns, looking at these pennants, looking at these wedges. What does that mean? What's our price target? When we exited this and we entered a trade, when we broke through, our first target was up here, at $3.58, because that's where you would set it, as at the top there. Now, that's what you want to be doing, guys, is looking at how can I make money and doing your own research and thinking about what are my next moves. Well, Bitcoin dominance, use logic, is dropping. Ethereum against Bitcoin dominance is increasing. Ethereum's now hitting the fib lines. This is all positive. So that's all I wanted to do today, guys, was just try and give you a bit of a flavor of look, zoom out. Don't read the first or watch the first YouTube or X, and I do watch YouTube, obviously. I'm releasing videos, But don't do that. Look at, the overall market. Look at it from a day, from an hour, from a week. Well, maybe not an hour, sorry. Because the hour can fool you. Because, something could be up, tails up 0.9%. Am I really happy about it? CRV's down 3.4%. Am I really bothered about it? No. Cool. CRV's actually up 1% today. Am I bothered about that? Probably not, if I'm honest. But tail up 14.5% gives a different picture. And then when we look out again, that's when it builds it up. And that's when you should get a bit more confidence in the trades that you're doing. So always zoom out, guys. And like I said, my feeling is alt season's coming. But when alt season's here, that's when we need to be looking at, okay, cool, what points are we getting out? Because if you're looking someone that's gonna diamond hand whilst everything's majorly up all the way through the next bear market, which I believe will happen, it's not. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be making profits, leaving the market, still doing YouTube videos, and probably dollar cost averaging during the bear markets. That is how I plan to attack this market and how I have for a long time. I hope you enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe. If there's any content you want to see, let me know. But that's just a general overview. We've got some really bullish stuff happening this week. It's crypto week. I'll be covering that closer. I think we obviously can have some rate cuts at the end of this month on 30th of July. So if you want those updates as and when they come, like, subscribe, and also hit the bell button so you can see my videos as soon as they come. Appreciate your time. Peace, guys.